US and other countries that I worked at, it's very common that you'd be CEO or head of a business and people would sit down, your superiors, your board, and have a honest discussion.
Direct conversation.
So if you wanted to do a business for 100 years or 200 years, basically, so they are a brand which exists for 200 years.
Yeah.
But they exist because of the trust they develop. So I think people is also like a brand.
For you, it's trust is non-negotiable because there are some people, okay, they can negotiate on their trust. But if for you trust is non-negotiable, that is the exact moment that you have to say, okay, this is the fine line. And so you have broken the trust between us.
Leadership is all about creating a safe space for your team to say fail faster, I would say. Fail faster in the sense, if they fail faster, they learn faster.
Welcome to Talk to Impact, episode 2.
Thank you.
Super excited to talk about this topic. I've been thinking about it for quite some time. So I think I've been grappling with this idea of leadership, right? Especially within the context of entrepreneurship for quite some time. I think we discussed it a little bit earlier that, I recently changed jobs. I landed in like a pretty senior position, right? Managing a big business, a big team, the whole 9 yards. And then I realized early on that I was completely in over my head, right? Leadership is an extremely complex topic. So I started thinking about ways I could improve, started listening a lot to Simon Sinek, who's one of the most renowned thinkers in leadership today, Jocko Willink, who's a former Navy SEAL. So very different kind of approaches in terms of this topic, right? So just to set some context, I think one is, Jocko Willink, his idea of extreme ownership, which is that leaders own everything in the world, right? You need to provide clarity, discipline, and decentralized execution. So if something fails, basically it's on you, right? So this is Jocko. Simon Sinek is a softer, let's say, notion and approach to entrepreneurship. Leaders create safety and meaning, right? So people can do their best work over the long run. So you need to prioritize trust and purpose, which is something that we'll touch upon later. So my question to you is kind of setting this context, right, in these two approaches, which are very different. What makes a great leader? Let's start there.
I think if I start, for me, if I see my purpose and when I work in an organization, the way I look at how can you take care of people you are working with, I think as a part of my personality is more about the empathy, basically. So if you take, my belief is that if you take care of people, they will take care of the job, And when you are so saying that taking care of people, you should understand beyond a daily transactional work. So like you come to the office, you say, okay, what are the tasks that you have to do, meeting minutes and all, Excel sheet and, all these things are important. But what is important that do you know what's going on with that person, like if 4 people working with you, do you know them personally or not, basically, What is your human to human emotional connect with them? Maybe nowadays, which is very mechanical kind of operation that we go through. But I think these things are missing somehow, For example, I have worked with a lot of people and they come and they go. But people I've been working for last 20 years, they still message me. So I started my career from a factory, operations floor. So every morning today, I get a message of a good morning or salam alaikum from them, even today.
It's a good sign.
So because I am not their boss today, but there is a human link or relationship between me and him. So, nowadays, even if you are away from your work and somebody is dedicatedly working for you, it is because of the relationship that you have. So for me, I think, how do you engage with the people emotionally? Apart from this transactional, basically, day-to-day job, that's really important, actually. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Right. So this is one thing that I strongly believe, to add on to your thoughts, Zahir. Leadership is all about creating a safe space for your team to say fail faster, I would say. Fail faster in the sense, if they fail faster, they learn faster. When they learn faster, they deliver faster, basically. you create a environment where they can come and share their failures and say, hey, this is what I was expected out of me, but I need some help here, or there's something that I don't understand. Yes, you hire people to deliver, but it's also your responsibility, the leader responsibility, to also understand what are the things that they would need in order to success. That's what you call setup for success, actually. So what I've seen in my career, you need to share the purpose. You need to share a clarity on the purpose basically with your teammates. It's not about resource A does B, B does C, C does D. No, it's not nothing like that. But sharing a purpose, saying, hey, this is what we need to achieve as a company, the company vision, the purpose, and how do we give our 120% in achieving that objective. So that sort of a clarity has to be there for any of the workforce to deliver on the vision or to deliver on the leader's expectation, actually.
That's great. So the question is, what makes a great leader? And I love everything that you guys just shared now, clarity to empathy to creating a safe place. I think all of this is I think it's not one thing that makes a leader great. It's a couple of things that makes a great leader. And for me, I'm really on that journey where I'm building my leadership skills, you will say. And recently I was reading The Leader Who Had No Title by Robin Sharma. And I love one quote that he said. He said, unless you become, so the quote is, a winner is a winner before he becomes a winner, something like that. And the quote simply means that unless you become a great person, you cannot become a great leader. So that is where I am right now. Like, I'm trying to be a great person, like building my personality. How can I be more empathetic? How can I create a safe place for people? Because I believe these are all skills that makes a leader great. So I think that is where I am now when it comes to leadership.
So I think that's a good transition into our next topic. I think what you mentioned, Acho, was interesting. I listen a lot to Jordan Peterson, right? And he mentions all the time, like, set your house in order before you go about changing the world, which is such a good quote about leaders, and then, you know, focusing and optimizing for their own life objectives before they go impacting bigger and greater things. And then what I liked about both of your points was that you mentioned, you know, safe spaces, clarity, purpose, right? One thing that I think is, I struggle, and I think just as a person, my personality is like, you know, very affable. I want to be very close to my team. And sometimes I just ask myself, like, as a leader, what is the divide of being too close, right? Because sometimes I feel like I create too much of a safe environment, right? Where not everybody might understand the fine lines between, you know, work and play. You want to provide a safe space and an environment where people, you know, can be themselves. You want to provide mission and clarity in terms of the objectives of the business. But those two sometimes clash. So just wanted to ask you guys if you feel like this dichotomy is present in leadership, and then how do you go about managing it as somebody who wants to be a great leader?
I think one of the areas that we also call it at my workplace is called basically care deeply. So you need to care about people. Caring doesn't mean that you always be very soft to the people, you know. If somebody is not doing well in their profession, sometimes a very blunt feedback is very important. Sometimes very difficult discussion is very important as well, so that it is good for them for the future. So today, if somebody is lacking in certain area, he's not able to focus, or he's not able to learn new skills, then you cannot just stay silent because you want it to be good for that, you know, that you are a nice boss, you don't, but, you know, basically it is important for their development and growth that you sit with them and have a very, very tough discussion with them a difficult discussion with them, and tell them that if you're not able to grow in these areas, then it is difficult for you to move on. It is difficult in your career. That is a turning point for them, which will bring a growth for them. Like for example, my kids. So my son don't want to swim, but I have to take him to the swimming pool, make sure that he take the exercise. Sometimes I feel that I'm a bit tough on him. I'm a bit challenging him. But it will be good for him in future. Maybe after 10 years, he realized that if I haven't done those classes, maybe I could not learn those basically. So I think I think you're right. I think you should be close, but there should be a boundary where there should be two parts. If there are challenges in their life, you should know what are the challenges in their life. They are going through, might be some, problem at home, but that you can help them, support them. But on the other hand, you need to challenge them also that are they growing in their profession or not, basically. So there should be a balance between these two to grow your organization and grow your team. Yeah.
So that's the safe space that we're talking about, right? So I totally understand there can be a blurry line between basically, right? To what extent we need to create their safe space. But the safe space shouldn't be at the cost of the expectations, right? What we do, the people that I've hired in my team, I made it very clear to them when they joined my team, hey, you are not working for this company, you're working for yourself. You need to put stars on a resume when you go out from this company. We have certain objective in hand, and those objectives would help you to polish your resume. It's all about learning, right? When you join a new job, if there is no learning, you will not continue with the job. Actually, you would exit, say, hey, I'm all done. There's nothing for me to learn, which I can grow myself. So the thing is, latching them to the objectives and putting him in a place where, hey, this object is what you need to deliver in order to groom yourself. And being very direct about the feedback. If there's a good feedback, let it go as a straight. And if something needs to be improved, the feedback has to be clear. Because with unclear feedback, no one can grow. No one can know what they need to fix. So the feedback is an essential component in this entire process.
I mean, that is interesting. I love the fact that we coming up with feedback and, having tough conversations, and because being a leader and trying to create a safe place, people sometimes take you for granted. Not sometimes, people will take you for granted if you are the nice guy,
Whenever they get a chance.
Yeah, if you're the nice guy, you want to be nice to everyone, people will take you for granted. But if you are clear enough on the objective, like you said, just look at it. And I love the fact that he brought his parental skills in this, because parenting is also a great part of leadership. If your kids know that you're not going to tolerate them, no matter how they play, they know that if they cross this line, something will happen. Now, if they have that clarity, I don't think they'll take anything for granted. But again, they have that safe place to have fun with you or do one or two things with you. But in their minds, they are clear. They know that if I cross this line, Papa will do something to me, which is not good. So if anyone you're working with in your team, if they have that clarity that the moment I cross this line, I'm getting fired, or the moment I cross this line, my pay is going to be cut off, something. If they already have that clarity, I don't think they'll take you for granted. But again, they'll have that safe place to grow and to accept feedback and, to have difficult conversation that will help them improve their career or even help them improve themselves. So for me, I think, there should be boundaries, but again, there should be clarity on the boundaries so that everyone is aware. Yeah.
So this one example that I remember at this point of time. So in my team, what do? I give them some total clarity in terms of what needs to be achieved so that they can put in the 110% there. But if it's something has to be achieved in terms of a deadline, they need to achieve the deadline actually. For example, if you're not able to achieve the deadline, then you better have some very legit, valid reasons, right? And be honest about it. I'm fine with that. If somebody says, hey, I couldn't do this job because I have to go out on a date and the date took some time, I would accept that as a reason. I would appreciate the honesty that my teammate is putting in because he feels that there's the success that I'm able to create a safe space for the employee to basically confide to me. All right. I would appreciate that feedback. But if this is something else, then I'll say, hey man, this is not how it's gonna work. Because you can, after so many years of experience, you can make out who is lying and her excuse and stuff. So this is what instance I remember I thought of sharing it across.
No, that's a good example. Yeah.
It is. So one topic that I think both of you mentioned is the topic of feedback, right? And I think this part of the world is quite top down from a leadership perspective, right? And I see it now because I work in an organization with a lot of different cultures, with a strong local kind of Emirati element, right? And it's interesting to see the differences in top-down management and how this operates, right? So I struggle and I think a lot about the idea of feedback loops for leaders, right? Which is something that somebody in a leadership position, or at least that has been my experience, it's difficult to get honest, raw feedback directly to you as a leader of an organization. So I guess I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this. I guess my question is, how do you ensure that as a leader, you don't get, sycophants, like replaying the things that you're replaying in your own head, and you get raw, unadulterated feedback that allows you to consistently improve and optimize for business outcomes, team outcomes, etc. Right?
So feedback from your team?
From your team, from your superiors. I think what I've seen is that the Middle East operates quite top down. So it's not common for your team to come and give you
Feedback.
very direct in your face feedback, right? Whereas you're expected to provide very direct in your face feedback to your team. And then your superiors tend to provide feedback, but not necessarily in a structured way where they will sit down and tell you, okay, let's have a 45-minute session and just go to war and discuss exactly where you need to go. It doesn't really operate this way. Whereas in the US and other countries that I worked at, it's very common that you'd be CEO or head of a business and people would sit down, your superiors, your board, and have a honest discussion.
Direct conversation, yeah.
So this is a challenge, right? So how do you bridge that challenge? How do you ensure that you get that feedback so you can improve and get honest feedback loops on your own performance and behavior?
I think it goes back to that safe place that Minhas was talking about. If you create enough safe place for everyone to have free conversation with anyone in the company as a leader, I think people can always walk up to you and say, hey, there's this thing that, can we talk about this or can we talk about this? And you need to remind them because there are many people that in their minds, you're the boss. So there's no way they're coming to give you feedback.
Yeah.
In their minds, maybe you know better than them. And maybe you don't know better than them. And in their minds also, they are thinking, if I say this, how will the boss take it? Maybe he'll be angry, or maybe he may take it in a bad way. But if there is that safe environment, free speech, free conversation, I think it's going to be more easier for people to walk up to you and say, hey, you screwed up at this particular point, or maybe you can do this better. And again, there are people that don't know how to give feedback. That is one thing, because giving feedback also is a skill.
It's an art.
Yeah, it's an art,
It's an art.
So it's not about expressing your anger or something. People can just express their anger, and that is where the problem is. But if you can walk up to your boss and then give him proper feedback, say, hey, there's this thing that you did like this that I thought it could be like this. And you guys can have a conversation, and I think your boss will get that feedback like right. So that's my perspective.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think in my view, the thing is that as you grow in a ladder of the organization, the responsibility and the impact will increase.
Yeah.
So I think while the leaders give feedback to their team, it is very important for the leaders to get a feedback. And now you are saying that people come to you and give a feedback. It's not a norm basically, and it's very difficult because I always say that everybody like appreciation. So if you go to the boss and you're a great guy, you are really helping us. Nobody will say, nobody hate that. They will say, oh, great. He's, internally you will feel that somebody is, appreciating me. But if you tell the other way around that, I don't know what you are doing. I think they are think that we are going wrong. Then people take it's depend on the culture, as you said. So I think we cannot live in an organization in a way that, okay, leader can take a feedback or not a feedback. It depends on him. So like the way I am coming from in my organization, there is a survey which happen every quarter, which is for the leaders, to assess by their team members that how they are doing in different part of their work. So in terms of are they effective or not? Are they taking care of them or not? Are they focused or not? So, and then it has been shared across the organization. That how are your leader is doing in this organization. So it is not left like, okay, if it depends on me to decide whether I take a feedback or not. If this is the case, then the organization at certain point will collapse, because the highest responsibility person has the most number of people responsible and the organization direction is depending on him. So there should be a proper way of getting a feedback, especially for the leaders. Otherwise, the organization will collapse at certain point.
Yeah.
So feedback, it's very tough to get very genuine feedback from your team actually, right?
That's right.
They would try to be very diplomatic so that they don't want to offend you. Still, they want to get their work done. So they wanted to be very diplomatic while sharing feedback. And that feedback doesn't help, to be honest, right? For a small team, say my experience has been into startups. So in my team, what I generally do, say every fortnight, generally, we go out as a team. And once we're out of the office, it can be a pizza party or it can be beer or whatever the team would like to have. And we say, hey, we're here as friends, not with our designation and badges, keeping that thing aside. All right? Let's have a conversation how we can collaborate better. Right? Not feedback, how we can collaborate better. A proxy way of asking the same question. Then they would start giving some idea, we should do this should do that. And then I would ask, is there any better way that I can collaborate? They would give me some advice in how can I can collaborate better. These are some indirect signals that I pick and I implement. These are very genuine feedback. Non-diplomatic, when they think that my job is not on the line or he'll give me a very worst performance review. So it works. But when you have a larger workforce, like Zahir mentioned, right?
Yeah, it becomes difficult.
So it's tough. But the thing is, the way of doing survey, what I've noticed is some kind of these surveys can be flawed. Why? For example, this service tells you how your team feels about you as a leader. There are certain parameters, and one parameter would be: does your manager encourage you to encourage your personality development or growth, career development? Right? That's a question which is there, right? But the thing is, when there's a top-down pressure that comes in to deliver on certain projects, right? We have a certain deadline and we need to hit with certain product or services or launches. I'm pretty sure you would not have time to ask your teammate, hey, would you need help in your personal growth?
Yeah.
And they would just mark it as basically, no, my manager don't contribute in this space. But the reason is not, the challenge is not with the manager. The challenge is not with the employee, their teammate. But it's again, the top-down approach the Vas was talking about.
No, I think what the challenge is somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think until you realize and identify that, you will not be able to solve it, basically. That's the thing. And I think one thing that is also important when you get a feedback, and again taking a feedback, but still if that action is not taken, then people will not give a feedback.
They will not give
Third time they will say, okay, I think we keep on giving a feedback, but I don't think organization is ready to make any change. So I think important thing is that whatever you take a small feedback, make sure that you take action against that. Otherwise, people will believe that there is no benefit of giving,
giving you
feedback.
feedback.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And I've seen some of the cases where you share feedback about a manager, the manager would just do one-on-one with you. So it's supposed to be an anonymous survey, but they'll say, hey, it's not you, but from your team, I'm getting this feedback. Now, can you give me this feedback in a direct format? Which is obviously we cannot give, depending on what kind of relation, what kind of environment, what kind of situation that the entire team is in actually. So I've seen that where the anonymous do not remain anonymous actually.
But one thing that I think leaders also need to keep aside is their egos, because sometimes I was reading this book, Ego is the Enemy, and ego is in a way of a lot of things, especially when it comes to feedback, Sometimes you can get direct feedback, and because of your ego, maybe your ego is on the line, you feel like, no, this is this is direct feedback, right? But again, your ego is there, and you need some praises, something. Your ego is on the line. So, I think for leaders to receive feedback properly, they have to keep their ego out of the line.
Absolutely.
And just have this tough conversation, because sometimes the tough conversation is important. Let's keep aside the surveys. Let's keep aside the collaboration. Sometimes tough conversations is important because it clears a lot of things. Yeah, that's what I think.
Absolutely.
It's a very good point, and I think it ties well to kind of my next topic, right? Which is how important I think showing vulnerability is in terms of clarifying, like we discussed a lot about mission and purpose, right? And I think the best thing that I learn how to do from listening to others and learning from really talented people that I work with is how important it is to show vulnerability as a leader and communicating the challenges you're facing to the organization. One of the things that, I've seen bad managers do is silo their problems or their objectives from the rest of the organization. There's this like sexy autonomous vehicle initiative, and they will silo it, put different people, and vice versa. When there's a very difficult problem, they will feel like it's their obligation to lock everybody out of it. Whereas I think good leadership comes in and shares the challenge with everybody else. They make them part of it, right? Because really, as a leader, what do we discuss here? You optimize, for performance outcomes. You want people to be their best selves. But for you to get that out of them, they need to know what the problem is, right? They need to know what's the direction,
Where the challenge is,
and where they need to focus. So I guess my question is, how important do you think is connecting, that vision and the objectives of the organization with kind of vulnerable moments and a vulnerable, let's say, interpretation of the challenges that somebody might face in an organization, especially given that in a leadership position, sometimes you're expected to not be as vulnerable and you're expected to have the answers, and business is seen more as a quantitative than a qualitative and emotional sphere, right? So what do you guys think about this concept of vulnerability and how important it is to let that seep into your team and the people that report to you versus the expectation that you would shield them from it sometimes?
If I should go first, I would say, as a leader, I think one thing that we must understand is that vulnerability is not weakness. It doesn't mean you're weak if you're vulnerable. The next thing is that when you are vulnerable, or you need to know where to be vulnerable, because there are certain places, again, you don't need to be vulnerable, and there are places that you need to be vulnerable. And making or showing vulnerability in a certain places, it shows to your team that you're also human, because at the end of the day, whether you're the boss or you're the CEO, you're just a human being. And you have challenges, you have pressure. So simply expressing those challenges and those pressure to your team, it sometimes makes them think that you guys are on the same line. Having conversation or communicating to your team, hey, I'm facing this, or I'm facing this problem or this situation. it also gives them the confidence that, hey, boss is also going through this. It means it's normal, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes they may be working with you and they think it's maybe he's so talented, or maybe he's so doing this, everything proper, or maybe when you're talking to them, you need this on this date, and they think sometimes they will be like, it's not possible to fail, or something, it's not possible for something to happen on the line, but it's okay. So showing vulnerability create more confidence, and also it makes the team to understand that at the end of the day, we are all humans, and sometimes we can be under pressure, but how you manage this pressure, it's what will take the business forward.
Yeah,
So that's what I think.
it's a great point.
So being vulnerable is something that each of the managers do have. It depends on whether the manager accepts it or not, the leader accepts it or not, actually.
Exactly.
Right? Why do you hire people in the first place? You hire people to come and join your team to deliver on something which they are best at it, actually. If you are at a, say, head of marketing position or something, right? You cannot manage end-to-end kind of situations, actually. You cannot manage the entire marketing stack. You need expertise in running, say, performance marketing, in running SEO, organic marketing, and whatnot, basically. You need expertise coming onto the picture and helping you there, basically, right? You have to be honest about the help that you would need, because this what it does, psychologically, it empowers your teammate, basically. The teammate feels, all right, the thing is, this is where my team, not my boss, but my team needs help to deliver on those objectives or target, and I'm expected to deliver on it. Obviously, yeah, I have the support from a manager, I have the support from my super boss, but it's me who have to drive the vehicle. It creates a sense of accountability, sense of empowerment. When you say, hey, you take decisions, if something goes wrong, we are there to help you out. You would make it mistake, but make sure you're learning something out of that mistake.
That's right.
Right? If what you have done, you have you have a scope of vulnerability, but the thing is, you basically you try to manage, you're trying to cover it up, or say you're trying to solve it with your team, basically, for the reason why they are there, actually.
I think, in my view, that there is a difference between the vulnerability and become panic. So when there is some challenge in the business, I think boss or your manager need to be composed. So if you go, so for example, if my team comes to me that this has happened, if I show a panic, then who will they go to? They come to me that I will, okay, I think I know it's a big problem, but I know this will be resolved and this is the way forward. So for example, if you go to a doctor and you have a problem, you have a disease, and he start panicking.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I give you my example. So I had a problem in China when I had a real problem, and went to the doctor. He said, you have 6 months to live.
Oh.
And he got panicked. And I got panicked. I was completely, and I came to Pakistan, and this is the doctor. And he said, and he started making a joke. There's a Chinese guy, I went to China, and then, all these things. And I, myself, and we were smiling on that. So he completely changed our perspective. So similarly, when your team comes to you and you start, what happened? And I don't know what to do. And then you're running left, right. They will say now, everybody will start. For example, if an airplane pilot is, and then there is a problem inside there, and he announced to the flight that the engine is failed, then you know what's going to happen? Some people might already get a heart attack, and then, So what is important is that vulnerability is always there. You tell them it's a big challenge for us, but I know this is we all have to see what is the way forward. How do you make a solution? And I tell you, I'm 100% sure that this team is capable enough who can take this challenge, and they will come up as a winning team. This assurance, while you might be internally, that this is a really big challenge, and but you need to show yourself that I am here, and I think with our team we will be able to, because I think when you enter, I think somebody was giving me an example, when you enter into a ground for playing a match, if you go into a mind, like I have a manifestation that you are going to win. Whatever happened, you enter into the ground that you are the winner. Then only you can win. Otherwise, if you go, oh, maybe I will lose or I will win, then you might lose basically, So I think the leadership is important that, whatever happen, you need to be composed basically.
Yeah, that's right. Love that.
Another, I think, important context where I think vulnerability is important is for learning. Like, I think a tool that I sometimes use is, I'll have some challenge that I cannot solve, right? And I'll sit down with my team in our weekly and I'll be like, guys, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this problem. And it's such an interesting moment because you see your team understand that, because what do you want? You want them eventually to be in your position and figure out how to solve these problems.
That's solve the problem.
And I think it's extremely empowering for them to see somebody being like, yeah, I have no clue what I'm doing. And then 3 days down the line, you figure out the solution and you just solve that problem, right? And then you communicate the solution to them. I think for me as somebody managing a big team, I'm like, eventually I want my team to be in my position and be able to acknowledge that they don't know everything. Because sometimes all of us, we're in a position where, we have this fake it till you make it attitude where we don't embrace our success.
Yeah.
We think we don't deserve it, which I think is very interesting. Like I'm definitely guilty of that. I'm in a position right now where oftentimes, and I tell my team, I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing 50% of the time. And my team doesn't believe it. Like they look at me and they're like, there's no way you're doing such a good job. I'm like, fine, but 50% of the time, I'm just making it up as I go. I'm making decisions. I'm trying to figure out what do I do? How do I manage different stakeholders? How do I appear composed, but also be able to share the challenges that I'm facing and get the right resources and support? So I think that's an interesting kind of duality that vulnerability has, that it allows you to teach, but also kind of embrace challenges yourself. Quick, let's say, segue into trust, which is a topic that we've discussed a lot today. I mentioned Jocko Willing earlier, and he talks a lot about Navy SEAL teams and how elite military teams prioritize trust over performance, right? And there's this concept of a toxic high performer, where you have all these guys in like the army that are extremely strong performers, but their top performance becomes toxic for the unit, right? That they're that good and that arrogant where people don't trust them that they will do the right thing in a situation. So I guess where that, how I can segue that is, in terms of a question, is how do you see trust in an organization as building, an environment? We discuss safe spaces and the environment, like an environment where people can communicate and express their challenges, but at the same time encourage performance as well, right? Because sometimes, and I've seen that a lot in tech, you have these phenomenally talented individuals whose performance or passion for performance erodes trust completely in the organization, right? Because they know everything, they're superstars, nobody's good enough. So how do you balance those two, where you have trust, but also strong performance and performance requirements out of a team?
For me, trust is non-negotiable, right? Because that's the one thing which makes me believe that my team can perform, but that my team can deliver on objectives, that my team can deliver on targets, basically. And in order to be confident of my team, trust is paramount, right? And when we see a superstar, it can be great on data or great on numbers, on spreadsheets, but not very high on the ethics side of the things, right? That's a totally no-go for me, actually. Because what? Because I need to protect my impact engine, which is my team, actually. Right? I cannot, for one person, I cannot jeopardize my impact engine, actually. I don't need someone who can hit 6 in every ball. I don't need a guy, right? I need someone who can give a consistent delivery, and yet someone with whom on whom I can trust with my soul. Because what? Because when you are in a high stakes meeting, you are committing, you are delivering, and you're promising some numbers to your obviously higher management, right? That's how this entire hierarchy, corporate hierarchy works. And if your team is not, if your team is not that, say, transparent with you, there's no point of having such kind of a structure in place in the first thing. That's the first thing, actually.
I think for me also the trust is a paramount. I think it is the base of the organization.
Absolutely.
If you don't have, like, I tell you the example of cars. So when you choose a car brand, for me, the important thing is that whether I can trust. So if I'm going to a 2,000 kilometer journey, with which brand I can trust that it will go for a longer mile, you know. And if some cars are a bad reputation will break down, you know that which cars. I don't want to name a car brand name, but I think for me it is important that if you don't have a trust, then there is no organization. It's the number one thing, basically,
Yeah.
Otherwise, there is no organization, and you cannot go long run with that, And so I think that's the number one thing, and that's as I think Minhas was saying, it is non-negotiable. I mean, you can negotiate on performance, delivery, KPIs. 1 year you are different, but trust is something that maybe should not be negotiable, and there is shouldn't be non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Are you trying to say something about a car? Say, I can go very fast, but not that far.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so you can go fast.
That analogy, I understand.
But you cannot go far.
You can go fast,
But
so you
certain,
cannot go
that this car can bring me wherever I can
Right.
go without braking. So yeah, I think this is what the team also is, that you should know that they will not break my trust, whether I am there or not, whether I'm present or not. I don't need to put a CCTV camera that these guys are what
Yeah,
time
yeah,
they are
yeah.
coming.
That's the worst thing to have.
I never do we never do the what time employees coming in the organization.
Yeah.
People are working remotely, they're working from home, but the thing is that there is a trust between you that that person is working.
Yeah. I actually love what you guys are saying, and just like he said, trust is non-negotiable. And I think trust is the foundation of everything. Before you hire someone, you go through the CV, you go through everything, but there is this trust that you're putting in this particular person that you want to hire. And so that is the foundation of everything. And I think what we are now looking into now is the transparency that you are talking about. Like, how transparent is this person? Can I trust this person further? Now I've given this person my trust by hiring the person, basically, but can I trust this person further to deliver on what we have agreed on, or something like that? So, and the moment you see that the person is not delivering, that is breaking the trust already. So now you have to decide, what do I do? What do you do when trust is not there? And if for you trust is non-negotiable, because there are some people, okay, they can negotiate on their trust, but if for you trust is non-negotiable, that is the exact moment that you have to say, okay, this is the fine line, and so you have broken the trust between us. And again, it can come in many ways. It's not just about the human trust or the trust on the job. So I think many things comes together to bring in that trust, to bring in that transparency. But the foundation of it is just the trust. So if the trust is not there, then there's no way we can continue doing business together.
Right, because this performance impacts numbers. It impacts numbers, right? It impacts the numbers on a spreadsheet. But trust impacts culture.
I love
And
that.
culture is contagious.
It's a good quote. Very quotable.
Right? Culture is contagious. That's why it needs to be trimmed, I would say, or we have to taper it down.
I find it interesting that all of you mentioned trust as a basic prerequisite.
Yeah.
But when we look at organizations today, like, what's the first thing that an organization does that is going through a difficult time? like mass layoffs, right? I see it in tech all the time. And I think about, CEOs. I was in one of the biggest technology companies in the world for a long time. And every single difficult moment of the company, the first approach was to lay off a mass number of people. And I kept thinking, like, what is the message that you send to your organization if your first inclination on a profitability decline or a difficult moment that you expect to happen is to blindly lay off people and give leaders of the organization an org chart and ask them to fill in names.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very interesting basic requirement for good leadership that almost no organization is meeting today. And the easiest kind of knee-jerk reaction of somebody in a difficult moment where, they need to find profit, they need to change the performance of the company, is to just blindly let go of all the people of thousands of people in their companies. And what message does that send exactly? As opposed to every difficult moment, you go and show vulnerability and you tell your people, okay, listen, we got to tighten up. Maybe we reduce bonuses. We do a couple of things. We're all on it, and nobody does this. I think it's such an interesting, because all of you mentioned how basic trust is, but think about how badly executed trust is in today's organizations. So I thought that was an interesting dichotomy between what we see and what we perceive as a basic requirement.
I think in my view, the trust should be a both way. I think we expect our team that they should not break our trust. But what the example that you are giving, while I put all my heart and soul, blood and sweat for my organization to grow, and then one day they will say, we are done, and that we have somebody maybe at a lower price, and then you will find. So I put all my, the best years and my best efficiencies for something, and then suddenly they said, okay, that's the trust broken from the other side. It should be two-way, right? Both ways. So if I trust that whatever I do, I go and put all my best to deliver, business result, then it should, as you said, there are different ways of mitigating the losses. Like, why can't you cut down, 20% of the salaries of people or 50%?
Yeah.
But you keep everybody because you are sailing in the same ship. But you ask few people, okay, you need to jump in the ocean because we need to sail the ship. It is like that, right? So you're asking few people that you need to sacrifice because this ship should not be drowned. But you should remember that the people are not alone; their families are with them.
Yeah.
So when you are asking people to jump, their families are also jumping with them.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, exactly.
so I think that's very unfortunate. But they should, as you said, your approach is a great. Why don't we think as a business? Why should ask everybody to everybody has to contribute?
Yeah.
Basically.
Mutual trust is, I would say, non-existent for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter how much we trust, right? Because see, the thing is, 95% of the company runs on profit. I guess that's the sole intention of running a company, actually. Right. The couple of ways that I think such situations can be avoided, just to have as a sort of a proactive approach to it. When I've seen startups, when they get funded, they would start hiring people left, right, and center. They would start putting in 10 people where there's a need of just 3 people. All right, they would start putting in a lot many numbers, lot many stuff into the system. And when the investor says, "Hey, the thing is, our top line numbers are going down. We need to do something. But let's go and start killing people." I would say, not firing people, killing people. Basically, they're just killing them off, right? So this is where the problem arises, actually, right? In the companies that I have worked for, I cannot vouch for the entire company, obviously, but for my team, I just make sure I have more work than my teammates, actually. So that all of my teammates are busy in some of the other work, and none of the work all of them work are unique, basically, non-redundant, actually. So this is what I can ensure from my side. saying, hey, I have more work than my manpower. So it gives me a leeway sort of having or taking a very low hit in terms of layoff if I have to take a call. Although I have taken a call, but at least lesser hit. Beyond a point you cannot control actually.
Yeah.
That's a hard reality of life unless until you are doing your own business.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing is that when you change, like say when the line managers change,
Yeah.
they make a different perspective of their team. So you might think that I have make a right people at every right place and they are required there. But when the leadership change, the new CEO comes or new organization come, they think, oh, I don't know how they hired people. I think there's a different perspective.
That's
Actually,
a classic problem.
Yeah.
So that's a classic problem. That's a classic
What
problem.
if let's say you're in a very tough situation and then you have two people in your team. One is very competent and the other one is very trustful. So there's one that is very competent, but you don't trust the person that much. But the other one you can trust, but he's not as competent as this other person. So who do you lay off? In case you have to lay off one person.
I think we said that trust is the baseline,
Anytime,
right?
yeah, the guy with high trust, anytime.
Yeah.
Because what? The superstar might jump off to a different ship by tomorrow. Exactly. So that's what happens, right? The superstar gives no shit. Okay, fine. See, the thing is, generally, whenever I mentor anyone or my juniors, I say, do not run after money up to a certain extent. Money would follow you for sure. There's certain career timeline where you need to focus on learning and learning. That's it. Money would anyways, it would come to you, right? Because there, in between that period, you can get some superstars who would say, all right, I'm getting $100 more in a different company. Let me just jump the ship. So for that kind of a guy, I cannot lose a guy who is like mediocre, but consistent and someone that I can trust upon if something critical has to be delivered.
I think also one thing that trust is something that can impact on your brand name as well.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do a business for 100 years or 200 years, basically, so they are a brand which exists for 200 years.
Yeah.
But they exist because of the trust they develop. So I think people is also like a brand. So if you can trust them, they can go longer run.
journey.
But if you cannot trust, then it's a very short term, basically. So I work for a company which is there for more than 150 years. They are brand which are for 150 years because people trust them. For example, you are going to a restaurant. If you don't trust the food is not hygienic, you will not go there. You might go once, but then you will not try again. Yeah.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I think that's really the paramount, as I said before.
That's
very
right.
important.
That's right.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. And it was actually my last sort of foray into this topic of leadership, how, building for the long term is what leads to culture, right? I have this example here of Costco, which continues to sell hot dogs at Costco for $1.50, which is just an unheard of number in the US right now. It's just basically giving it for free. And it just signals their commitment to low pricing and value over margins, right? And it's a company that has been building for the long term. So that's my last question for you is how do you guys think about building for the future, whether that is like building a team or building a venture, and how having consistent values-led, let's say, symbols teach your team about the culture that you want to build and how that culture builds long-term success? Convoluted question, I know, but I was just thinking about how to build for the long term, and then how most organizations are short-term profitability driven, but the most successful companies in the world are the ones that build for the long term, even if that means that they sacrifice sometimes short-term outcomes, right? Whether that is profit or scratching a business venture. This example here of CVS that basically stopped selling cigarettes, which was $2 billion in annual revenue. And they did it because it didn't match their mission, right? Which is that health comes first. So how do you build for the long term, and how do you ensure that you build a culture that will last? Difficult question, I know, but that's sort of my my last take.
I think talking about building for the long term, if you have that vision, if you have a vision to, let's say you start a business today and you're thinking 50 years from now, or you're thinking 60 years from now, I think if you think this way, it's easy for you to build a culture because you're looking into the future. But there is another business that starts today and is thinking maybe 5 years. Maybe I want to make profit in 5 years. Or maybe I did my research and it shows that this business, it can make me this amount of money in 10 years. So after 10 years, what do? So if you don't think long term, so building long term is basically thinking long term, thinking 50 years from now. And I think all the companies that last for 100 years or 150 years, they thought of 100 years or they thought of 150 years. And that is why the company lasted that long. And for you to build long term, you also have to understand that you will sacrifice the beginning years, maybe 10, 20 years. Company like Amazon, I was reading, I think the beginning they didn't make any profit for like how many years, and then they started making profit. Same like Microsoft and many other companies. So the beginning of the years, you just sacrificing and putting in more and focusing on building the culture, building the theme, and thinking 50 years, thinking 100 years. And with that mindset, I think it's easy for you to stay in business basically. So
I think in my view, it's a very difficult question nowadays because things are very fast paced.
Yeah.
I think the brand I'm talking about, it was developed 150 years ago. But today, things are like, we have the age where we have AI, things are changing so rapidly.
That's right.
So it's very difficult. So if you're failing and then you have to take a call into a business, then it's very difficult to talk about even for 5 years now.
Yep.
I think nobody think about 10 years or 20 years because things change daily, So I think nowadays it is very, very challenging because also from a focus point of view, people who are driving the brands and driving the organization, their focus we are not able to make them focus on one area. So people keep on changing their careers, moving from different companies, brands changing. So I think it's very challenging nowadays to build something which is very long term, because the technology is evolving very fast as well.
Yeah.
Maybe certain brands is negating that, certain categories, but I think tech, as people who are in tech, they know that things are changing so fast. Yeah, that's my view. I think it's very challenging right now to build a long-term strategy, a long-term brands actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure when did I last saw say annual operating plan actually. You make annual operating plan for the next 12 months. And after 3 months, you say, hey man, this is completely wrong. We have to modify it. We have to edit it because competitors have started launching some of the new products.
Everything
Market
changes.
has changed and we have to rework on the AOPs. I'm not sure how many multiple times that I worked on AOP in a single year. And right at the moment, whenever I advise any of the startups, I say, hey, let's go ahead 90 days plan, then 90, then 90. We'll figure out how things move, then we'll plan the next phase of changes that we need to do. But interestingly, right at the moment, in Dubai, there would be another, say, at least 100,000 companies trying to run ads and target the same audience, I guess. 100,000 brands for sure, right? But what sticks in customers' mind? That's one question that not that everyone is able to answer. All right. Let me give you an example, right? This is something that I felt, and after experiencing it, I went to Google and started studying more about it. So I go to this burger joint called Five Guys, I guess. Five Guys? Yeah, Five
Love
Guys.
Five Guys.
Five Guys.
Big fan.
So this Five Guys, they give you the small packet of peanuts.
And
The peanuts, right?
Yeah.
So, but by the time your order comes in, you can munch on those peanuts. And I love peanuts basically, all right? So I generally go there just for the small amount of peanut. I generally go there, and whenever they will be giving your entire order, so every time I take the bag, I could find, okay, I have some fries in this paper packet, but I have some fries on basically
Inside
on
the bag.
on the beneath of the bag. Basically,
Yeah.
I can see in the bag there are some extra fries. I said this might be while I'm taking the order, it might have fallen. It happened once, twice, thrice. I said no, this can't happen like that. I can see there's extra fries. And I came and then researched about it, the peanut factor and the fries factor. So they put in some extra fries to your order. Because what? When you see your order, you're trying to equalize the money that you have paid for the
value.
meal. You're
Yep.
trying to compare the money. $10, this $10 meal I'm getting. But whatever addition that you get, you think this is addition that I'm getting. Be it
More
in the
than the
peanut, more than
More than
what you have
ask,
paid.
what you ask, yeah.
Right? These are some of the things
Yeah.
that plays with
The customer's
consumer
mind,
psychology.
I love this trick. I
And
think
it
about
works.
it every time I order Five Guys because there's an intentional scoop in there.
Yeah.
It's a humongous scoop.
It's a humongous
And
scoop.
every time you look at the bag, like
Yeah.
you're a little kid at Christmas, even though they factored it into the price. Because they're expensive. But you think that you're getting a good deal because you're getting this
Because you're getting something extra.
predetermined.
You have extra fries, you have unlimited peanuts, then you have unlimited whatever Diet Coke or whatever that you want to take. So whatever money you have paid for the meal, but again you are sorted for the initial chit chat that you want to have with your friends.
Yeah.
I like this.
I think this analogy
That's a
can
good
go with the
experience.
people also. Like, people, when you go give a task to a team member and he deliver more than,
Yeah.
so he does his job, this,
Yes.
and he does XYZ as
Do
well,
something extra.
which you never ask him to do. For example, he's supporting somebody in his team, giving his more time. So you might think, I don't know what this guy is giving you more. I mean, what you asked for. So I think the same
Yeah.
analogy. I think people, as I said, also the brand. People also represent as a brand. Also, they. If they deliver something, you always should deliver more. What is expected from you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love everyone's contribution.
So we had a great discussion, honestly, and I think yeah, we learned a lot, or I learned a lot from you guys. I think especially topics of trust, safe spaces. I think very important topics that we touched upon. And yeah, it was a pleasure, kind of learning from all of you.
Yeah.
And I hope we do this again. I hope we discuss this topic again in the future. And thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Ross. Yeah.
Thank you. Great
Thanks.
questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Simply
had
loved
fun.
it.
We
Yeah.
learned a lot as well.
Thank you
So-
guys.
All right.